Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon I'm delighted to have an international flavour to the show. It's Kevin McCluskey all the way from Hungary and Sean Connolly from Australia. We're here today to talk about Celtic go visiting Fir Park to play Motherwell. We've been talking all season, Sean, about this top of the table stuff, the fact that Aberdeen are or are not challengers for first or second place. But when you take a look at the table, we're going to have to go to Fir Park and get a win today. It's as simple as that.
We should be used to it by now. It was the same thing last season. We were always playing on a Sunday. Sometimes that meant playing catch up. Sometimes it just meant, having to restore the lead. As it happens, this Sunday it's a bit of catch up, and just hopefully we're not suffering from any European travel fatigue. I guess might be the word. And there's been a few changes to the squad, so hopefully that's mitigated.
Yes, and we're going to be talking about those changes. Kevin, when you look at that team, the big omission, of course, is the captain, Callum McGregor. We're hearing that there is a late call-off for Callum through sickness, so nothing long-term to worry about. But it's an unusual situation to be going into a game without the captain, isn't it?
It certainly is, yeah. So I got wind of this through the famous or infamous Acsom WhatsApp chat when somebody posted in.
Has it become infamous?
Must be. I mean, Ian Malcolm talks about it, so it must be infamous. So, but I saw it, and I can't remember who it was. Someone posted in just going, AJ's the captain. So obviously, kind of alarm bells ringing with me there. What's up with Callum? But if it's just like a virus or sickness bug that you can get over in a few days, then that's not so bad. But yeah, it's a strange one to go into a game without him, because he's always the first name that goes in the team sheet, really. Captain, number one player you put in the midfield and you build the team around him. So it'll be interesting to see how we cope without him. But then that's a big chance for somebody like Luke McCowan to step up, gets his first start. Let's see what he can do. He's been impressive in the last few games when he's come off the bench. And probably it's a big opportunity for Bernardo as well to drop back into that deeper role where I think he is probably more suited. So it's an interesting matchup. And we're going into this one, with some guys with some things to prove, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It creates an opportunity. When you look at that starting 11, Sean, only 4 players have played 100 or more games for Celtic. It's Rio Hatate, James A. Forrest, of course, Maeda and Kyogo. And there are 3 players in there with fewer than 10 appearances so far for Celtic. I'm not going to say it's lacking experience in any way, shape or form, because when you're bringing in players like Austin Trusty, for example, to replace Carter Vickers over the last few weeks, you're expecting him to be able to rise to the challenge domestically and also in Europe. Alex Bailly comes in from Barcelona. He's young, but again, you've got to be able to do it at Fir Park against Motherwell if you want to play for Celtic. And of course, Luke McCowan, he comes in for his first start today. And I think we've all been looking forward to that.
I think you need to, taking a longer term view, you have to have these players coming in that haven't had that many games for Celtic, the ones that don't have a drawer full of medals. They're the ones that want to play catch up on their teammates. They're here to win things. They give you that little bit of edge sometimes in these games. So I think it's good to have that refresh. And it's not like we're lacking experience with Schmeichel and Forrest there. And then, Maeda, Kyogo, Johnson, you could also argue. Scales have all been over the course of Tate. I'm not concerned about that, the lack of experience that you're referring to. The one thing that is flagging in my head is that we have a dubious recent history of clamouring for central midfielders that are performing off the bench to get a start, and then they've not always done so well. Odin Thiago Holm comes to mind, David Turnbull comes to mind. Then there's a few other recent examples of that as well. They don't always do it when we call for it and they get it. So hopefully we do see it from McCowan today.
Yeah, you're right. They were able, I think, sometimes to make an impact over a 10 or 15-minute period in games, but then they got the start and they didn't take the opportunity. It is Luke McCowan's first start, obviously. He's up against a team that he has faced many, many times in the past. Before we get stuck into more of the Celtic chat, a couple of shout-outs. First of all, thank you, every single one of you, for coming out on Friday night to watch us with Gordon Strachan and John Hartson. There was about 375 Celtic supporters in the room. It was a tremendous night, and we move on to our next night with Johnny Collins live in Glasgow on the 1st of December at Gracie's. The tickets are on sale underneath this video in the link. Last night, there was a big charity ball for wee Jamie Tierney. We have spoken about Jamie a number of times on the show. And if you want to support Jamie's journey, then his link is underneath this page as well. Great turnout, 350 at the event, raising thousands of pounds for the wee fella. And long may that continue. And also, condolences to anyone who knew Graham Jewell, who was a well-known Celtic supporter from the West Fife Villages, who lost his own battle this week, unfortunately. So a big shout out to all his friends and family and his wee boy and his missus as well. That was Graham Jewell. And I'm sure everybody who is tuning in will keep him in their thoughts and their prayers as well. What do you think of Celtic's lineup? Let's get stuck into some of the comments. Douglas McPherson is saying, please, no Champions League hangover. Let's hope not. There's a couple of fresh faces in there, if you like. Were you surprised, Kevin, that Kyogo started? Because obviously we had Big Ida running his socks off the other night, didn't get much in the way of a result. But this seems to be the type of game that he relishes. He certainly performed previously at Fir Park, and there's been a lot made of Kyogo's record on the roads. He's still the number one striker, of course. Were you surprised at Kyogo's inclusion?
I am, yeah, to an extent. I think we're in the really wonderful and envious position of having two first-choice centre forwards in Kyogo and Adam Ida. I don't think there's too much between the pair, but I think we've got in Ida an away centre forward and Kyogo a home centre forward. In my kind of starting 11s, I just think Ida's more suited to the away games. Pitches are generally tighter, there's less space, defence is more compact, and we need somebody to kind of just get in and do the marquee thing in a way. And settle defenders, ruffle them up a little bit. I think he does got that more physical presence and can do that. So for me, I would start him more often than not in away games. But I think in midweek, along with everyone else in the park, I think he put in a decent shift. And he seemed when he was going off to have I don't know if he was struggling a little bit by the time he went off. So there's maybe a precaution there as well. But, you know, it's one of those ones, like I say, we're in that position where you can toss a coin, and if it lands on Adam Ida to start, you're happy. If it starts on Kyogo, you're also happy, because there's no drop-off in quality, really. And if it's not working for one of them, you've got the other one sitting on the bench ready to come on. So, yeah, for me, I would have went for Ida, but to have Kyogo in there is not a downgrade for sure. Because we know what his record's like. You would bank on him to score today if he gets the chance, and that's what you want from a centre forward.
Aye, without a doubt. 29 years of age now, Sean. 144 games prior to today. 78 goals and 18 assists. Kyogo. We've been talking about his the delivery from the wings into Kyogo, and of course the wingers today are Maeda and James A. Forrest. Nicholas Kuhn drops to the bench. I mean, again, Forrest knows the fixture, doesn't he? You can rely on him. Were you surprised that Kuhn, who probably has been one of our best players across the season, has dropped to the bench?
Not really. I think it's just rotation. You know, you put in a shift the other night. I think there'd have been an argument actually to have Ida starting today and Kyogo starting the other night, especially based on the way the game played out on was it Wednesday. The wingers, like in the first half, our chances were coming from counter-attacks on the wing, and Ida wasn't quite getting up to them. Whereas the idea to have him as an out ball didn't quite play out either. Second half, when Kyogo did come on, again, there was a few balls in over the top, and there was the volley where he should have done better, really. We could have been talking about a famous win rather than a famous draw. But yeah, I think Ida might have been slightly better suited today, but I think it's just a case of two guys getting 90 minutes in 1 week. I don't think it's anything more than that. They're both great players. They both have different qualities. Kyogo's older. He's done the course more often. You could say he might be a arguably better option for that reason. But yeah, I'd be happy with either of them starting today.
Well, this is a big thing, isn't it? You need to get into the situation where you're 16, regardless of who's starting, you're confident that they can go and do the job against any domestic side. Kevin, you've got to have that confidence in your wider squad. On the bench, Sinisalo, Taylor, returns to the fray. He's sitting on the bench. Palmer, Kuhn and Yang are the three wingers. We've also got the aforementioned Ida. Carter Vickers back. Engels on the bench, the £11 million man, and Ralston as well. Much was made of Engels' performance other night, Kevin. And I think that when it was looked at with a wee bit more detail, it showed that he played a very specific role for the team, which didn't involve a lot of the kind of sexy stuff that you might remember, but it was a really good defensive performance by Arnie Engels. We've got to remember the age of the boy and stop going on about his price tag all the time, I think.
Absolutely. So it's not a direct comparison, but if you remember back to Atletico Madrid last season, and a lot of folks at the time were maybe not critical, but wondering what Bernardo was doing in that game because he wasn't offering the creative play. But he was, what was it, Alan Morrison's stat, he covered, was it correct, 40, the passing lane on 40 different occasions. You know, he was blocking the lanes and stopping Atletico from doing things, and therefore had a good game, impacted on it. I don't think it was quite the same level, but what Engels is doing off the ball actions are just as important as what you do on the ball, almost, in these games. So I thought he actually had a pretty decent game. Don't always need to be flashy on the ball to impact it and have a good game. I thought he done all right. It's interesting and encouraging, I suppose, to hear what Brendan says after the game when he highlights that as well. He's 20 years old. We cannot expect him to come in and be the finished article at 20 years old. There's a lot of improvements to come there. He's got the big 10, 11 million pound price tag because he is, I think, a Belgian international. He's played in the Bundesliga. He's was such a highly sought after player last summer when we signed him.
Yeah.
So we had to pay top dollar to get him in. That's what you pay to get players of his potential, current ability and potential from the league that he was playing in. 20 years old. It's going to take him a bit of time to settle into life in a new country, new team, new way of playing. But I've seen enough from him in the first few games to know that there's a player there. It might just take him a little bit longer than we want, but I think we can afford him that time. And if we've got a game like today when we can take him out, bring in Rio, Bernardo, Luke McCowan, that's still a very strong midfield. It lets him know that he's not guaranteed a place either. But we can also just say, take him out, give him the chance to freshen up and get going again. And I'm sure he will, come the end of the season, prove to be a vital player for us.
Without a doubt. Now, there's the Celtic team for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. You can see, obviously, on the bench, the returning Greg Taylor and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Sean, what do you make of the dynamic in the midfield? Because, obviously, we do have Paulo Bernardo, who Kevin has spoken about, Luke McCowan coming in for his first start, and Hatate, who I think has come in for a bit of criticism over the period of the season, but overall, we do know what he brings to the table. He's the playmaker. What do you make of the dynamic of the middle three?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think as well, like when you watched them Wednesday, we had switched to the double pivot, and Engels was playing a lot deeper than he would normally. So I think today, going back to domestic, it'll be back to just the one number 6 player, and I think it'll be Bernardo today, with McCowan, Hatate offering a bit more attacking impetus, maybe the 2 number 10s, if you will, even though one of them might play a little bit deeper. So yeah, I think. Like there's McCowan and Bernardo, I think will be a bit more efficient, a bit more quality, the sort of things that Brendan Rodgers looks for. But what Hatate's key is, obviously he does have that kind of bit more dare and ambition at times, and he's the player that's really looked at to trigger the press. And I think I know absolutely egg in my face last week said Hatate would do nothing, and he scores the opening goal. So I'm not gonna bag him again this week. I think it's going to be Bernardo in the 6, and hopefully it won't see too much different. But yeah, I'm hoping we get a good one out of McCowan really, and I hope Bernardo really anchors it well. I think he's been kind of geared up to do that. I'm pretty sure he plays there for Portugal under 21 in that same position. So it shouldn't be a stranger to it.
No, absolutely not. And you mentioned McCowan, so let's focus on his Champions League debut, the match against Atalanta. You guys haven't had an opportunity to speak about it on Acsom. So I'll come to you first, Kevin. There was a mention there of European hangover, and I get it because obviously you're playing away from home. It takes so much out of you to, go into a game like that where we're being written off largely. I think a lot of people wrote us off. Some people were expecting us to go out and get Dortmund treatment again. Didn't happen. We defended really, really well. We left everything out on the pitch, Kev. I'm not sure if you subscribe to the European hangover. I think if you look at results in past seasons, it's maybe a thing. Luke McCowan, he's just coming up against every challenge and battling his way through it. His latest one was making that debut in the Champions League, which he did. What did you make of the game the other night? I mean, we could probably go two ways with this. We could probably say, well, yeah, it was a tactical masterclass. Every single thing we set up to do worked really, really well. I think we soaked up the pressure from very high quality opposition. And the one thing I've mentioned a couple of times, which I think we're going to have to keep kind of clear in our minds, we frustrated a very, very good side, and they showed their frustrations. And it showed me that even if you're an elite team, then, and I don't know if people class Atalanta as an elite club, but they aren't machines. They're humans like everybody else, and they actually show their frustrations. And I think we saw that 65, 70 minutes into the game as well, Kev.
I think that performance in midweek was hugely impressive. I think I might have used this expression after the Slovan Bratislava game, but it was another one of those coming of age games in Europe. So Slovan Bratislava was thumping somebody at home and turning domination that we've threatened to show in some European games into reality and getting the goals and winning the game. Wednesday night was more we licked our wounds from Dortmund and we learned our lessons from it. And we went out there and we played a very tactically astute game against, I think, the most dangerous attacking side in Italian football. Did they not win 5-0 last night and they were 4 up inside half an hour or something like that? I mean, for Italian football, this team scores goals for fun. And to be fair, we really limited the clear-cut chances that they had. I think they had a few chances in the first half, and Schmeichel made a couple of saves. I don't remember very many real clear-cut opportunities. It was like heart and mouth moments. We defended really, really well. The back four was tremendous. Scales and Trusty were unbelievably good throughout the whole game. I mean, that was to keep the Italian football references. That was like Maldini and Baresi in their prime. They were so good. Every ball that came in, they were winning it. They were reading situations. They were getting blocks in. So, yeah, from my perspective, I thought it was an excellent performance. It was a grown-up European performance. One that I just wish we'd put in against Dortmund. I don't know if it would have changed the outcome as such. We might still have lost the game, but I don't think we would have lost the 7 goals. So I think it shows we've got it in it. And I think we've got to take a lot of confidence from it because Atalanta are a big team. I don't know if they're elite just yet, but they're on the way to becoming one if they keep on going in the trajectory. They won the Europa League last season. They were the only team to beat Bayer Leverkusen in the whole of last season, which is no mean feat. So I think we've got to take all the plaudits we can. And yeah, you're right. There was a point in that game, maybe around the 65-minute mark, where I think they ran out of ideas because we were just blocking everything off. We might not have been the most creative, but we blocked everything off. We put in a performance that wasn't traditionally a Celtic type performance, but it's got us the point. It's got us a bit of confidence, and it's got us a whole lot of respect back again in European football. So all positives from my side on that one.
Yeah, and they've taken it out in Verona. 6-1 was the final score, but like you say, they went into a 4-0 lead pretty early doors. Sean, we need to discuss, because people will be asking in the comments why we don't, the fact that Kevin has just compared Liam Scales to Paolo Maldini and Austin Trusty to Franco Baresi. That's quite a stretch.
It's up there with my Haksabanovic and Berbatov one for last season.
I'm also enjoying all the comments about Kev looking like a dentist. It's a great one.
Oh, yes.
I don't know. I'll be changing this for the second for half time.
Absolutely.
Sorry, what was the question again? Atalanta, was it about that?
Yes.
I thought that the stats showed that we were kind of made it look like we were backs to the wall. Even when you looked at the highlights, like there was like that Valle speculative shot, which wasn't even Celtic's best chance. The Kyogo one was the best chance. But to be honest, when you actually watched the game, it wasn't like that. It wasn't so one-sided as the stats and highlights suggested. I think with a bit more physicality and composure, we had a real had a real threat going forward in the first half from some of the counterattacks we were setting up. We were getting in and around the box and just not having that the composure and physicality and mentality, and you could even argue quality at the end of that. And it's not like Schmeichel didn't get man of the match. It was, the Atalanta player, Ederson, got man of the match. So again, it's not like UEFA agreed that we were completely under pressure. It wasn't any of our defenders or goalkeeper who got man of the match. So I think the stats and the highlights made it look more backs to the wall than it was. I thought we held our own. We could have snatched it on another day, and we deserve a lot of credit. And I think Rodgers is right. The system was the same as the one we had against Dortmund. It was just we executed it better. We made fewer mistakes, and Atalanta didn't get the luck that they might have needed to break us down early on, and that's kind of how it goes. It could have went another way in Dortmund if we'd had that same luck and execution.
The big thing about the Dortmund, and I've said it, after the game, absolutely gutted with the result, hate getting a humbling like that. But I did point out, I thought we were really poor on it. That was a frustration. We were really poor on the night, but it was the individual errors, Sean. I think there was 3 where we've actually given the ball away, and they've punished us. Dortmund punished us, and the finishing was outstanding on the night at +2 penalties. And then, no, I don't think that if you prevent that, you're only going to get beat 2-1 because Dortmund had more in the tank, I think, in the second half. But that was a frustration for me, and we didn't see that the other night. We didn't see those errors. Very few stray passes. I think I remember a slight error with Scales giving away a free kick. But, we defended it well in any case. McCowan with a straight ball. Other than that, we didn't give the ball away cheaply. And that was massive for me. And at that level, it actually absolutely shows. Because if you do give it away cheaply, they're going to punish you. Dylan, in you come. Dylan Pearce. Who does he take off if he decides to give Carter Vickers the second 45 minutes? Surely not Liam Scales. Dylan, I would love for Brendan Rodgers to be in the position. So let's have a look at Jim Orr's favourite scoreline, 3-0, guys, right? So we go 3-0 up, and Jim can actually enjoy the rest of the game, get the popcorn out, because up to that point, he can't enjoy the football. At that stage, I wouldn't mind him taking Liam Scales off and bringing on Carter Vickers, because I think it would be interesting. I'll throw it to you first, Kev, to see Carter Vickers and Trusty playing together, and to see both players playing in their strongest sides. I think it would be interesting, if we're comfortable enough, to see that for a spell.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the scenario for 3-0 up and it's going into the second half of the final half hour of the game, we know what Scales and Carter Vickers can do together. We've seen it often. So why not? Let's see what Carter Vickers can do next to Trusty. I'm not sure, but they may have played together with the national team for the US, so they might have some understanding already. But why not? Let's see what they can do for us. And yet we'd also put Trusty on the left-hand side, which is his more natural. So it's a move that we would get to see a new partnership, but also a £6 million defender playing in his right position for the first time. So I'd be for that as the change if we're able to make it.
You mentioned £6 million for a defender. Eddie Marzella has actually pointed out, most expensive bench in Scottish football history. Probably is, when you look at the fact that, the 3 big buys in there. So you've got Ida at £8.5 million, Engels at 11, CCV at 6, and there's a couple of other £1 million spread across that bench. It is a strong one, Sean. It's a strong bench. What do you reckon of the CCV Trusty thing? I mean, if indeed it's because we want to see how they perform together, I'm all for that. I'm not looking at it as a means of edging Scales out the team. Scales has been brilliant this season.
Well, I think if I've read it correctly, Rodgers pretty much said yesterday at his press conference that Scales is due a rest. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does come off for Carter Vickers. But I think it's slightly different for centre backs. I think the player is going to be most likely to come off the bench if we are comfortable would be Greg Taylor, to be honest. I'd say it's more likely that he comes on for Alex Valle than Kurt Vickers comes on at all. I don't think there's any rush to bring Kurt Vickers back on, whereas if Valle gets injured after playing the whole game in Italy and he gets another 90 minutes a day, then that's getting a bit risky territory at that point. So I'd say it's more likely Greg Taylor is the player we feature today.
Well, let's see if Greg Taylor comes back in. I think Bailly's done very well. This will be 7th appearance for Celtic, Welsh on loan from Barcelona. Born Celtic, die Celtic is asking about Mick Lynch. Yes, Mick Lynch, we did a couple of interviews last week just because of Mick's diary, and we interviewed him on the Thursday. That'll be on This Is Acsom on Friday of next week, something to look forward to. Ian McGinley is also looking forward to that one. A Union man himself, by the looks of it, looking forward to Mick Lynch on Friday. He does not disappoint. I've got to say, he does not disappoint. Forever and ever, Celtic points out that Kevin stick a hairnet on and he'll look like a master baker. Stephen O'Rourke's a wee bit. Yeah, here we go. A little bit more generous. Officer and a gentleman, he says. It was a crucial point the other night, Jim. It was a crucial point because I don't think we expected it. I don't think when we looked at the fixtures that we would be looking at Atalanta thinking, oh, we'll take a point from that game. But Kevin, at the same time, there's other games that we're maybe thinking we'll take 3 from that and we won't. There's going to be upsets the other way, isn't there?
Yeah, of course. We're not always going to get it our own way. I think probably realistically we looked at Dortmund. If we were being realistic, actually, we would have looked at that one and thought we're probably not getting anything from it. But we're not getting a gubbin. It'll be close, but we'll lose. Similar for Wednesday night. I think that was a game where, I hate to say it, but if you were offered a point going into the game, you would probably have taken it without playing the game. You'd just be happy to get a point. So there will be other games. We'll be looking at Zagreb, Young Boys Bern. When we play them, we're thinking it's probably a game we're most likely to get another 3 points on the board from. And it might not happen, but I mean, that's football. We've got to go out there and upset the odds when they're against us and make sure that they are not upset when they're in our favour, like we did against Slovan Bratislava. We've shown we can do it in those kind of games. And we've got another couple, in my opinion, coming up that are winnable. So I wouldn't worry myself thinking about the fact that we might not win them. Let's go in there thinking that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to go in with that confidence. Now, Tam O'Donnell lets us know that it's actually an abductor injury to McGregor. Maybe that was confirmed prior to the game by Brendan Rodgers on the TV coverage. And Paul, this is a big thing. We should never have paid anywhere near 9 million for either. I think that, when you look at all the circumstances surrounding that, it's the only way we could get the player in the door. It was far less of a risk to bring Adam Ida in than an unknown quantity, perhaps. We've done that so many times. Yes.
Can I just add a bit of context? Norwich signed the replacement that Norwich signed for him was a 20-year-old Croatian that was playing in Poland, and they paid 9.3 million for him.
Yeah, there you go. And I think if you were to throw £9 million at a player, and by the way, he might turn out to be a world beater, Sean. That's untested. I mean, we're bringing in a guy who, for me, if we didn't have Adam Ida, we don't win the double last season. When he's tried and tested, he's not had a run of games starts. I'm talking about. He's not had a run of starts. He's going to have his moments this season. He's going to show us across the campaign that he is worth that money. And obviously, as we have so many games coming up, there's going to be occasions where he's in the starting 11. I'm going to very quickly bring up the starting 11 for Motherwell before we get some predictions from the guys. There we go. There's the Motherwell starting 11, and we've got Oxborough, Caleta, O'Donnell, who captains the side, Gordon, Balmer, Wilson, Zdravovsky, Hallett. Go and you say it in your Hungarian voice, Kevin.
I can't. So I almost
Come on.
Sorry,
I built you up,
don't think
mate.
I could.
That was your villainous moment, and you failed. All right.
Zdravkovsky.
Okay.
Davor Zdravkovsky.
Oh, that's better. Third time lucky.
There we
Halliday,
go. Take
Miller.
While, but I'll get there.
You'll get there. Miller, who many people think we should sign. Sparrow, Stamatolopoulos. Is that his name?
Stamatolopoulos.
There we go. Sorry, I should have asked Kevin Graham to pronounce that one for me. So, Motherwell, no Mugs. Absolutely no mugs. They're sitting at the moment in 5th position in the top 6 of the Premiership. It's going to be tough, Sean. What's your prediction?
I've put a cheeky bet on 3-0, so I'm hoping for that. We're actually in quite poor form when you look at it. Like in the last 4 games we've played, we've had a heavy loss, 2 draws, and a last-minute winner. So if you're extracting form, it's going to be a close game. But I think with the changes we've made, and I think I can see us kind of shaking off the cobwebs and getting on a bit today and getting back to form, I think is where it starts. We're not actually, international football aside, between now and December, the furthest we have to travel is Edinburgh. So I think we can get a bit of a run going, and I hope it starts today.
Brilliant. 3-0 says Sean. Kevin, do you agree?
So first of all, on the names, right? Motherwell's sub-goalkeeper is a guy called Christian Hedgie, and he's a Hungarian under-21. So you could have got me to say his name, because I can at least pronounce that.
Would have been too easy for me.
Would have been, so hey-ho. But yeah, I kind of agree with Sean. I think this is an opportunity for us to kind of get that run of steam going up again. I think it will be quite difficult and tight because the last few games at Fir Park have been. I'll go with a 2-0 or 2-1 for Celtic.
Okay, you and Boy reckons 3-1, and we've got my ball 1-0. Wee Jamesy, as long as we get a win today. But I agree with you, Sean. Let's get a run of form going. Starting from today, go and enjoy the action. We'll be back at halftime, as always, on a Celtic State of Mind. Thank you to Sean Conley and Kevin McCluskey, and join us at halftime for more from the team at a Celtic State of Mind.